Hi everyone. My name is Kang Jai, and I'm going to be the host for this event, Perception of Feminism, and also I'm currently working as a marketing member in this West Cooking, and yeah. So first of all, I would like to talk about the purpose of this event and about West Cooking, and a little bit briefly. So talking about What's Cooking, What's Cooking is a US-based software app, communication app, and you can find communities and events that you love. And we've been working on speaker series for a while. And this time we're in speaker series, we used to make this event with influential people from specific fields. So this time and also this time, the International Women's Day is right around the corner. So in order to celebrate this, and we just had this idea to bring to the table to make this event and make it happen. That's how we have this intention to this event. And and after this, and I would like to introduce to Manana, who is the event speaker for this event, and she is a feminist advocate from Myanmar, and she is a CEO of Purple Feminist Groups, and she shares the values and interests about feminism in her two podcasts, and Feminine Talks with Nandar and Gio Zagawai. And she was also selected as one of 100 women for BBC in 2020. So it's so honored to meet and talk and discuss about this topic and with you today. And then also I would like to say thank you for accepting the request to be the event speaker for this event. So thank you, Manana, and yeah. So anything you want to tell, Manana?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting.
So glad to hear. And so I think I'm going to start with there is a pardon. So I'm going to start with questions, the question that I prepare for the event, and after this prepared question, you can also ask what and the things that you would like to know, and anything confused about this topic. So let's get started. And for getting familiar with Manana, I would like to ask from this question first. And the questions would be like, what is your story of becoming a Burmese feminist activist? That's what I would like to start.
Thank you. I do think that it's a very good place to start the discussion about feminism. And I think for me to start off my conversation around how and when I became a feminist would be, I think I can pretty much say right now, if I recall, I have been a feminist as long as I can remember. From a very young age, I was a very rebellious daughter and a community member. I used to ask so much question to my community members as well as my family, to the point that they are just run out of the answers. But I think to specifically focus on my transition intellectually on understanding feminism and accepting feminism fully was not so long ago, actually. But I want to tell this story by starting off saying a bit about the story about the journey of becoming a feminist, actually. That I think it started like so one day at a history class, I had a heated discussion with my male classmate about rape being wrong,
Oh.
no matter who commits it. My classmate, his name is Sai Seeker, who grew up closely with working with ethnic armed groups, disagree with me and argue that it was okay if the soldiers are raping women because they are, in his word, serving their people. And I
Oh.
wish I could tell people this was the only heated conversation I have had with someone about rape. Unfortunately, there are many people like my classmate who thinks rape is okay. After that heated conversation, my teacher pulled me aside and asked if I knew the word feminism, because to her I was a feminist thinker. And of course, I did not have any idea what the word feminism meant. So I asked her to write down the word for me so I can look it up on the internet later. And later that evening, I looked up the word on the internet and decided that I have nothing I have nothing to do with this word because it was all in English and I was struggling to understand in English, but also it was all about voting rights and other policies and workplace policy changes in America, in the UK, and in France. So I thought it has nothing to do with me or my country. The only thing I was fighting for at that time was my right to be here in that school. And to kind of conclude that story, when I got that first ever scholarship to study abroad in social science program, I was excited, nervous, and happy, and couldn't believe that I was the first Nepali ever to be selected in this program. I came home, like, shared this news with my family, and they thought it was too ambitious of me to believe that they will let a girl go to study abroad alone. So imagine how disappointed that and angry I was after I hear those words from my very own family. So I didn't know how to convince them. But however, I was smart enough at that time that I read a lot of Gandhi stories. So I was using one of the Gandhi strategy on going hunger strike and demanding them to let me go to study. After a long cry and begging, as well as some hunger, my family gave up on making decisions for me, and I could finally be free and go study. So for a young girl like that, feminism was not like reading the history of Western feminism didn't really motivate me to learn more about feminism. But shortly after a few years, fast forward, I study another liberal arts school where also every time in the classroom where we have a discussion around feminist history, my classmate would turn their head around me and expect me to be the one who speak for feminism. And I didn't quite understand why these people are expecting me to say something like, why, like it's like I'm some kind of responsible person for feminism. And but then a lot of the time, to be honest, I was the one who is speaking every time the women's right issue is coming. The rest of them would be just kind of ignoring the issue or not wanting to really have involved in this discussion. So I realized that I was becoming this kind of unintentionally the vocal of this feminist issue around my community and my people. But I think the very kind of like, if I have to choose momentum, it would in that liberal art college when my classmate handed me a book called Why We Should All Be Feminists. And he handed me this. So I clearly remember that day when he handed me the book. He said, Mananda, you would like this book. And like, I was like like not happy that he said I would like this book. And I said, why? Just because a woman wrote it, does it mean I have to like it? I told him that, and he's like, no, I think you would like it. And I was annoyed by his comment, but I took the book anyway and I read it, and it changed my life. It changed my life because it was personal stories of that author that connects me to my own personal journey of fighting in this kind of, I don't know, with half-baked knowledge that I was carrying around me. I didn't I couldn't really articulate what the word feminism was in our own term, in our Myanmar language. So after reading that book, I remember deciding that everyone in Myanmar should read this book, because that's how much it inspired me and it determined me to call myself a feminist. So from, I think from after translating that book officially and publishing that day on, I sort of like officialized the word feminist to be attached with me, and I publicly became feminist in Myanmar. And I think since then I'm very proud to call myself a full-time feminist. Back then I didn't know that the word feminist. So that's kind of a really long story, but that is how I realized that I was feminist, and many people around me who call themselves not feminist are actually feminists. They're just not comfortable being called feminist because they think that it is a Western ideology and it shouldn't belong in Myanmar. So
Yeah.
that's my story.
So thank you for
I
answering
love
the
it.
first
Thank you.
question. Yeah. So I'm going to move on to the next question. Next question is how do you define feminism?
Yeah, I think for me, I truly believe that, just much like I described my situation when I was going online and reading about Western feminism, I couldn't relate. It was
Yeah.
like there was nothing in it that was relatable for me looking at that history or Western history. And that is why, after reading this, why we should all be feminists, suddenly I became like enlightened about what the word feminism is. And I think that this example very much show that feminism is very contextual. When the feminism was explained to me in a historical context, from Western historical context, I couldn't relate. I felt like it didn't um, click with me. But when I was reading from a storytelling perspective, that's when I changed I switched my perspective. So I think that feminism, first of all, is a very contextual thing. We don't need to measure our feminist movement with the Western rulers, Western perspective or colonial perspective. I think feminism is, depending on time and circumstance, it is changeable. It is adaptable. It's in our hand to do it. And I think what feminism mean to me is the very, very basic foundational understand for me is feminism is an idea, a space where I am recognized as a full human being with the potential of doing good things and bad things. A lot of the time when people think women having human rights normally mean doing good things already, like all about being angels and like the stereotypical image of women um, being free. But for me, I believe that if I am recognized, I am to be recognized as a full human being. That means that as a human being, I am both capable of good thing and bad things. And women doing good thing, uh, women doing bad thing should be as equally as shock as men doing bad thing, not
Yeah.
extra shock, because women are not angel. They're just as human being as men, and they should be the standard for doing good for women should not be higher than men. So the foundation for me is to be fully recognized as a human being and have the right to exercise, actually to fully exercise my human right. And if you want to wear hijab, and as long as it's your choice, then I think you should do it. If you don't want to wear hijab, then if it's your informed choice, I think that should be your freedom to choose it. So yeah, that's basically how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good perspective, and also, the definition of what you I don't know, accept this word, and also, I don't know, I just see the value in your perspective and in your definition of feminism. So yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question is, are there different types of feminism? I mean, and we've seen a lot of like, this is a liberalism, this is kind of like, most of the things we've been, I don't know, told by like, different types of feminism, like, what do you type? And then, for me, in my experience, and then whenever I feel I'm a feminist, and it's like, oh, so what do you like what is exactly the type of feminist are you in? So I'm like sometimes I just feel lost in this question. So yeah, so I would like to know your answer. Are there different types of feminism?
Well, I think I would say don't waste time on people who wants to label you,
Yeah.
because I think feminism, as I said earlier, is a very contextual thing. And because of that reason, it has room for different diversity, different approach, different way of thinking on feminism. So I believe that, of course, like, if we again use the Western perspective on different type of feminism. There are liberal feminism, radical feminism, Marxist feminism, cultural feminism, ecofeminism, parasite feminism. It's so many different type of feminism. But I think for me, what I believe is the best kind of feminism is intersectional feminism. If the feminism or your feminism or your thinking of approaching feminism is not intersectional and it's solely a biased opinion or biased approach, is not a healthy feminism. As long as it's whatever you're doing, you're thinking intersectionally, which means that thinking about how it's affecting disabled women, how it's affecting LGBTQI people, how it's affecting men, heterosexual men as well. So if we don't think about, like, these kind of from intersectional land, I think it can be a very unhealthy thing for long term. So I think for me, out of all the different type of feminism, I think the most healthy approach that I see in any kind of activism that you are doing, whether it's just for democracy or feminism or any kind of human rights issue, I think you need to use intersectional lens in order to make a long-term sustainable impact.
Yeah, I mean that's a good answer, and I'm really really I don't know, just I don't know, I really feel the strong word, and yeah. So okay, when we hear the feminism and feminist words, and we think like this is only occurred to women, and so my next question is, can men be feminist and why?
Oh my God, this question does make me laugh a lot, actually. I
Yeah.
remember when I was in Nepal and having a discussion around feminism, and there was a one old man, I think he's probably a journalist. He stood up and he said to me, he asked me, I'll just say, sure, Madam, can can men be feminists? He looked at me and asked, and I looked at him, controlling myself not to laugh at him. I said, are you asking permission from me? Like, are you are you asking permission from someone to be a feminist? Because I think that everyone can be feminist and everyone should be feminist, because it's beneficial not only to the individual but the whole society as well. Like, imagine that if men wake up the next day and be a responsible father and give care and love and time to the children, how productive and how healthy those child would be emotionally. Imagine those things, like the very basic thing that will be benefited by the family, by individual, but as well as the whole society is, it's remarkable. And I think men should not feel, or even like women, we don't need to ask if men can be a feminist, because they can. When we are asking that question, it also implies that someone has to give permission, someone has to tell them that you can be feminist. I don't think that is necessary. I think, just like if you believe in human rights, if you believe that women are just as human being as men, and with rights and like with desire and with capacity to do bad things and good things, I think it should be easy for anyone to be a feminist. And I think the very question is also kind of disturbing, that we still asking that. I know you're asking for the male
Even yeah,
audience to think
yeah,
about it, but I think if we keep asking that question, it implies that men need some sort of permission or some sort of, like, I don't know, saviorism to be a feminist. I don't think
yeah,
so. I think men are just as capable as being a feminist as women are. And the only thing that is, I think, limiting them from becoming a feminist is their privileges of being a man in the patriarchal world that is kind of holding them back, because it's a lot of privileges to be a man, especially a straight man in this patriarchy world. It rewards you, it puts you in pedestal, you know, so it's difficult. It is challenging for them to give up those privileges, but I do think they can do it.
Yeah, that's right. And then, to be honest, I would like to say that, there in my community, and there's so little chance to see male feminists that like they are proud to say. I mean, I think most of my friends, I have male friends who have been so proud, like I'm a feminist, I'm a male feminist. But some kind of like they're just like, I don't know, like you say, in Myanmar, there's worse scenarios for like, mostly straight men are like, they don't want to be equal, and they don't want to drop down like the privilege and being, the patriarchy system, that they belong to for almost years. So, so it's so rarely to see the male people who are so proudly for being called themselves that I'm a feminist. And so this is so hardly to see. But for let's see, in this event, all people are females, and even though so it's just like, and also there how can I say, there are people who are being, it's not like ashamed, it's just like, oh, this kind of topic, it doesn't belong to us. There's kind of people, male people, who are still believe in this. So yeah, that's why I asked you this question. And so I'm gonna move on to the next one. Is feminism the man hate thing? Man hate thing. I know
What do
it's
you
funny,
think?
but
I think we have to ask men how they feel. I think the reason is that the reason men are very uncomfortable or in a denial of the need of feminism is because men from a long time in the history, as well as now, that they have been very comfortable in getting the spotlight, and because of the feminist movement now, it's not only the men who gets the spotlight, it's the women time now, and it's now the time to share the spotlight. And I think some men are having a hard time to do that, and that is why they are bashing feminism, that they realize, like, and I think there's this kind of, because of this deeply internalized patriarchal and misogyny, that they don't think women deserve to get what they are getting now. They don't believe that women deserve to have rights. It's like, in a way, I can also like compare with this animal rights example, that for a long time we didn't really have a animal rights as a radical movement in a lot of the country, but now we believe in animal rights, and we started talking about animal rights. And, like, some people, there's a lot of people that still believe that animals do not have rights, and they don't deserve to be treated nicely and kindly and as equal as human being. So I think this is like one of the more significant example, because with women it's more subtle, because we are human, so there's like, they can't really kind of deliberately say nasty thing as much as they do to animal rights movement, but they still do in a way. There are people always say, like, go back to kitchen, like, why are you talking, you belong to kitchen, etc., etc. And I think it's not a man hating thing, but it's the men who framed the movement to believe it is a man hating thing, because they are not the one who's getting the spotlight. And I think, to be completely honest, in my point of view, feminist movement should be led by women, because historically women are the one who are disadvantaged by this patriarchal practices, and it should be the women who kind of claim back that power they have. If it's you know, if it's also equally led by men, it would be again in a way misogynized and patriarchized some way, you know. I don't know the language, but it would be in a way kind of again repeating the history that men are leading this movement again, and they are going to be identifying themselves as a leader throughout the many years. So I think the reason that men are not the leaders of this movement makes them really uncomfortable, and they're not used to that. And I think slowly that will change, hopefully. And I can see now there are more and more men that are understanding the very the very problematic thing of toxic masculinity, like, you know, this entitlement that they
Yeah.
belong everywhere and every time is very toxic. And I think
Yeah.
because of the help of feminist movement, I think that is changing. I really hope that is changing. But it feminism is about equality and liberation for all human being, you know. And I think men don't realize that often because they don't get the spotlight. Sorry,
Yeah.
man.
I mean, mostly men with kind of like misogynistic energy. I mean, not all men. Like, you know, when we say like men, but we should see like, oh, there is a kind of a man, like, you know, oh, gay people and all this, you know, you have to see. But mostly if the feminism is a man hate thing, they mostly men with kind of like misogynistic and, you know, toxic masculinity, all this kind of like, I don't know, just this you know, how can I say, dominant type, and they belong to this, and they mostly these kind of men think feminism as this way. So I've seen a lot of men in my, you know, in my experience, I've lost in men who thinks like, oh, this is just the man hate thing, they hate us. It's not like that. No, if we try to educate, like, they just like, no, I mean, they're not trying to be like, don't educate us, we all know. I mean, what's the point? I mean, I've seen, even though we keep saying like this is not a man hate thing, this is kind of like more, as you say, more you feminism is kind of like, actually is more, I don't know, like it more belongs to kind of like humanity, because we see men and women as a human beings. You know, men can be this too, women can be this too, like this. So yeah, so I think I'm glad to know the answer from you from this question. And yeah, so I would like to move to the next question. Could you tell me the examples of negative perspectives on feminism and feminists, and also challenges?
I think the first thing is, I think the word feminist itself has been filled with negative connotation, that the understanding that it strictly focuses on women is wrong. It's not, you know. And I think we do a great disservice to a movement when we don't try to understand it. And I think this is a lot of men's problem as well, that they jump into a conclusion on feminist movement. And I think this also goes to women who don't try to understand feminist movement and say feminism is not needed. I think that is the foundation of the problem. When you don't try to understand the importance or the history of a movement, it kind of it makes the movement into something smaller, you know, and it makes you think that you're bigger than the movement, and and you feel entitled to say stuff about it without even understanding. I don't know how many times there are people, both men and women, who would have the audacity to come and tell you how to do feminism when they themselves do not identify as feminists. It blows my mind, the entitlement that people feel towards something that they don't even understand properly or a part of it at all, you know. And I think that is the sort of like, in a way, the very sad reality that so many people tend to make judgment and like negative conclusion. It's because they don't understand. Anyone who understand the importance of feminism do not make that kind of jump into a conclusion thing. That's one thing. And the other thing is that, like you said, because this this movement is female centric, of course, because of the historical need for that women needs and desire and like rights have been so long, you know oppressed by male population, and therefore we need to reclaim by focusing on women's issue particularly, and while also engaging in men's issue as well. And I think, can I also just say that feminism and also feminists love men. This is why we want to share equal responsibility. Like, like men don't have to expect to be working if they don't have to. Men can be stay at home dad, and men can do whatever job that they want to do. They can be a nurse instead of being engineer that they don't enjoy doing. And I think men fail to see these things because it 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 just kind of, I think it's also come down to toxic masculinity. They think that this is what the patriarchy expects men to be and to do, then this is what I will do. If I don't do that, then I'm not a man anymore, and I won't belong to this privileged group anymore. And I think men fear that. So the very first issue is the negative connotation around feminism and not willing to understand and learn about it. It has been a foundation of the problem, the root cause of the problem. And the other thing is, I think, the toxic masculinity, the very belief that you, as a man, you don't need feminism. As a man, feminism is negatively impacting you, etc., etc., is also ruining men's life. And I say this because we have come too far educating women, empowering so many women to be independent, to be strong, to be liberated from all this oppression. But I think we fail to educate men how to live with those women who are extremely smart, intelligent, and independent. And I think one of the things that I would really want to focus moving forward with my feminism as well is to focus on men, how we can educate men to be comfortable in in their masculinity, and how can we redefine toxic masculinity. So I think if we can like sort of make men understand that, I don't know, it's okay to share responsibility. It's okay to cry. It's okay to not do things that are expected of you. It's okay to fail at things that the patriarchy expect you to do. And I think this goes to particularly straight men. They're the one who are most uncomfortable by this movement. And I think if they can sit down and tell themselves that they are just as human being as women, and they deserve a break, and they deserve to have someone who share responsibility with them, would be, I think, would be a great start to making people understand feminism, and I think slowly drive away the challenges as well. And I think men participation, not having enough men participation, is also lagging this movement behind in a way.
Yeah. So so this is my for before move to the last question, I would like to tell this question first. And so in the recently we talked about patriarchy, misogyny, or some kind of thing. So I just would like to know the difference between the patriarchy, misogyny, and sexism, and these three things. I would like to know, what I would like to share.
You want to share or you want me to share?
I want you to share.
Okay.
For knowledgeable perspective on patriarchy, misogyny, and sexism.
I think, out of all these, like the word, I don't enjoy spending my time with confusing people with jargons. And I think there are some academic feminists who enjoy doing that. And I think it's great
Mm,
that they are educating people on these kind of terms. I think they are not
yeah,
really
yeah.
the main focus, but I think for the sake of this conversation, actually, there's something that I want to say is that patriarchy, of course, is everyone knows, a male-dominated system, where men are given more favors because they are born with a dick, to put it bluntly. Just because you are born with a male organ, you deserve something, you deserve better. And just because you are born with vagina, you are inferior, you have to be subservient, and your rights have been taken away from you in a lot of ways, both culturally and socially, as well as politically. And that is the work of patriarchy. It advantages, it seems like it is advantaging men as well, but I think on a long run, it also kind of spread the toxins around their life, like emotional well-being, and as well as physical well-being and intellectual well-being, that they somehow think just because they are men who is born with a dick, they somehow have upper hand and like um, higher power. And I think that very belief, superior complex, something like that, is, I think, very problematic. I think the word misogyny is actually very interesting. I've been struggling so long how to articulate that word in Burmese. And a lot of the time we just say, um, Maima Mawadi, which means loosely translated into women hating women, and I think misogyny is not just that. I think it's deeply rooted in not believing women. And I think that is the root. I think hating someone is like, it's something that is, in a way, you can fix it. I think believing women is something you can't really fix it. It's a very systemic thing. Like, and misogyny is that မိန်းမတွေကိုယုံကြည်လို့ရတဲ့လူလို့မထင်တာမိန်းမတွေကိုဟို um မနစ်သက်တာအဓိကမယုံကြည်တာကနေစားတာ it comes down to not believing women. And I think that is the root cause of like spread of misogynism. We think that like men and women who say the exact same important thing, but women are not taken serious because of misogynism, because they think that women are not believable human beings, and they are not resourceful, and they don't have capacity, they don't have whatsoever. So I think that misogyny is a very interesting word, because in a way the patriarchy created misogyny, but also misogyny is also, patriarchy is sustainable by this misogynistic practice. And I think when we don't believe women, it just it just I don't know how we can build a better society and equal society if we don't believe women, as like we don't believe in their story. That's why I think when women share a sexual harassment story, rape story, they're not believed. This is because of misogynism. And when women are not believed, men are forgiven, men are free from all these things that they are supposed to be in jail, and they are supposed to be living with consequences. They don't, because misogyny enabled patriarchy to sustain. And I think sexism is again similar to all these things, that the very belief that you think, based on what you are born with, you make a judgment about who is capable of what. And this is why sexism is very bad for men. We just assume that men um, are not supposed to cry, and men are supposed to be lifting big things. Even though we are completely capable of lifting things, we just expect men to do, because hello, welcome to patriarchal world again. So I think all these things, it may seem like patriarchy, misogyny, sexism, all these things may seem like they are benefiting men, but in a way they are also damaging men. And I think the very thing they don't realize is also deeply kind of enabling the patriarchy to sustain and go on, live longer. So I think we need to start intellectually aware that it is a damaging thing for both men and women. And every time we have a discussion around feminism, men issue also have to be in some way centralized, because the men issue have been kind of not focused because of the need to focus on women issue, have made men believe that it's okay for them not to partake in this because they're not affected by it, but the reality is they are affected by it. Yeah.
So we came to the last question here, and so so for the last question, I would like to ask this question: what are the values of feminism and being feminist, and your message for all your women and men? So but because we're going to write a also blog about this event on our website, so I think this is I think from getting this message would like to be kind of like I don't know, I don't know, it will be influential to show us in the website. So yeah, so I would like to know the answer from this question from you.
Thank you. I think, the value of feminism, or the meaning of feminism itself, I think is human rights. I think no matter which country you're born at, or who you are, or what religion you believe, you deserve your human rights. And I think that is the foundation of feminist belief, that I think a lot of the time people tend to feel this entitlement that, oh, because you're Muslim, you don't deserve that. Oh, because you're Buddhist, you don't deserve that and this, and like we make this kind of judgment. But I think feminism wants to get rid of that. Feminism wants to make sure that all people are free from oppression from systemic government, and oppression from religious obligation, oppression from society and culture norms, all these things that are oppressing women as well as men, to realize that that is not the only way to live their life. I remember before I was educated on human rights, for 19 years of my life, I thought that the culture beliefs and culture practice were the only way to live my life. That was the only thing, that was the only value that was put on me. You either follow this or there's no way you can survive in this community. But I think feminism is here to tell people that there's a way to survive. There's other option to be human, to live your life fully with potential, with dreams, with capacity and all these things. And I think feminism is the foundation of like accepting and understanding and providing space for people to see as human being, like not as their gender or their religion background or which country they belong. We see them as human being. And I think when we are seen, I don't know, I don't think a lot of people know this, but so many of us have grew up, without being noticed as full human being. But when we can see other people and when we are seen as a full human being, there's something something in us awake. We see ourselves as a totally different person. We become more visible for us as well as for others. And I think this is the greatest service that feminist movement have done, to see a person as a full human being rather than other identity. Of course other identity play a big role in shaping who you are, but I think before anything else, you are a human being that came to this world naked and crying and hungry. And I think we try to see, as feminists, I think we try to see that first, and we try to accept that first. I think my message to men and women would be same message but different, responsible for different audience. I think for women, I would really like to encourage from here to to know your body. And I think the greatest service that the patriarchy does to women is to take away their right to know their body. And I think when we don't know about our body, it becomes so difficult to talk about the violence that the body go through. You know, when we don't know what our body is, when we're not allowed to talk about our boobs and vaginas and all these things, how can we talk about the violent thing that men do to us? It's impossible. We are not given the language, we're not giving the space to talk about it. So for women audience, I really want to encourage you to go out there and learn about your body, embrace your body, love your body, and stop listening to this patriarchal teaching on to hate your body. You know, your body is practically your temple. It will take you places. It will make you feel a lot of things sexually and emotionally and physically. So go out there and like discover your body, learn about it, ask question, challenge the norms, all of it together. You know, don't limit yourself. And I think the very place to claim your body and yourself is, I think, at home. It start at home. It probably also start in bed, you know, masturbating, understanding how you get orgasm is the very liberation, you know. So I think
Yeah.
learn that, do that, you know. Don't allow the patriarchy to to discover from discovering you. And I think for men audience, I would say that stop feeling entitlement towards women's body. Women's body are not for male gaze, and women body are not for men to use. You know, I think this comes to all these sexual harassment, catcalling, rape, and even the like comments on what women wear and don't wear. Stop feeling entitlement. You don't have the right to say anything to these women. They are, it's not your business. Uh, I think instead of doing those things, I would encourage you to be emotionally in touch with yourself, you know, and to know that as a man you also have emotional needs, and try to, I don't know, step forward and talking about your emotions and be in touch with your emotion. A lot of the time men become so violent because they are not really in touch with their emotions. So I think if you want to be a part of the feminist movement, I think you can partake by knowing your emotions and being in touch with your emotion. And I think that is the most powerful thing that you can do for yourself as well as the people around you. So this would be my message actually.
Oh, thank you, Vandana, for sharing your opinions and thoughts and all of these things. And thank you for being patient with, all of my questions. And also I'm really feel the dedication in all of your answers. And I don't know, I just feel so honored um, um, to get to know all of these things. And sometimes even though I'm feminist, there are still things I need to learn. So from this event, I got kind of like, okay, I had this kind of, I can share to others with more detailed flows about this topic. And yeah, so I think we have a limited time to this event, and but if you have any question to ask or something like that, I just would like to, let one to ask Mananda to answer your question. So yeah, if you don't have anything, we would like to close the event. And yeah, so yeah, is there anything you will just raise your hand and talk and ask, yeah, whatever.
Okay, in behalf of What's Cooking, I would like to say thank you, Nandar. I get emotional with things that you say. I think we have different realities in our countries and different cultures, but the base is the same: the quality and the respect and the love. So I was fully grateful for this talk, and I think that it's amazing that you have your time for sharing with us and helping us learning a lot, and we want to spread your message. So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. And it's nice to know that even though I'm from Argentina, we are in the other side of the world. We think the same and we feel the same. So that it's amazing. And what's cooking is about this for getting together and instead of being in the other side of the world that we can be a community and grow it together. So thank you so much.
Other people have questions? I mean, I can ask something, but I also I would defer if any of you guys have questions. Anybody else? I just wanted to say, Nandar, thank you so much for bringing up that reading about the Western feminism was not helpful to you, because as I'm a woman in the United States, and I think in terms of, oh yeah, we got to have our voting rights and elections and everybody should be doing the voting. And if that's, it's not respecting people to tell them what they need. I mean, maybe sometime somebody might care about that, but the respecting person is to ask them what they need and ask them where they are and to talk to someone where they are. And I think that, we forget that. And there should be more of this question of like, it's all about, your journey. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And I hope when we write it up, yeah, we can point that out to some people.
And we are more.
Sorry? No. Oh, I was just kind of reflecting on the same thing about, I remember I was like so disinterested after like 5 minutes of reading it, and I was like, okay, there's no way I understand any of this, so bye-bye. And I actually never really deliberately look up into the word feminist ever again until I study again, and that's when we had to learn feminist history, and I was forced to learn, but I was a feminist before even knowing those words, I didn't even like, it was like that man, I think, if I'm being honest, it was like that man in that event when he asked me if men can be feminist. I think I was also somehow asking myself if an Asian woman who look like me can be a feminist. Is it a thing? Like, like I needed some sort of permission for someone to say, yeah, you can be feminist, bro, go. Like, I think I discovered it, like, thankfully, through a book that gave me permission to say yes to feminism. And yeah, it has been like an amazing journey to fully accept the idea that I am a feminist, and I think probably become a feminist. I wish I don't have to be a feminist till I die, which means that I want to achieve equality before I die. If we have equality, there is no need for people to call themselves feminist, So let's see if that day would come. If anyone have any question, please feel free to ask, and you guys can stay in touch with me as well if you don't want to ask right now and shy away.
Yeah, and on behalf of What's Cooking, we would love to share different events that you have. If you're okay with that, we really want to promote the things that you make. So we would love to start promoting also the next steps that you're going to make in our community. So we would love to. Congratulations, and thank you for getting us to meet Nandar. It was amazing.
It's okay. Welcome, welcome, Millie. Yeah, thank you. So okay, I don't think there's no more question upcoming. So I think we should end this event here. I mean, yeah. So yeah, and also I would like to say thank you again for your given times and for accepting our request to be the event speaker, and also for sharing the stuff and for bringing to know the different perspective. I would like not to say like different, it's not knowledgeable perspective of feminism, because if you know more details, if you know really kind of like, I don't know, effectively knowing this topic, you can share to other with detailed facts, and you can share other like, oh, I know this, but not without any detailed facts. So it does not, it would not be effective sharing. So I think from this event we can share, if someone asks me like, okay, what is it, if you're feminist, and then say this, and we can share the ideas and opinions from this event, so we can share to those people who will come and access. So thank you. And I would like to say I can how can I say I will end this event here. And so yeah, so have a great night. I know Manana, are you from Myanmar, or are you living in Myanmar currently? No?
Outside.
Oh, outside.
It's
Yeah,
also
yeah.
night, but yeah.
Oh, night. Yeah. Okay. Also, good night, Manana, and
Good
to
night.
the others. So good morning, and yeah. So yeah. So I would like to
Bye-bye.
end the event here, and yeah. Bye bye, everyone.
Thank you for having me.